Have you changed your mind on the critical issue of our times, the most important issue since the Second World War? And if so, when and why? Now, that's what I want to talk about in today's video. I want to describe why I changed my mind twice, the reasons behind that, why my perception on events did alter, and I want to find out from you what your story is. So I did do a similar video, it was about 7 or 8 months ago now, called The Crucial Importance of Changing Your Mind. And I think I tried to relate it back to, ultimately, when you change your mind, an admission that you were wrong. It's showing an emotional maturity, really. That's in essence what it is, I think. And I do think the ability to change your mind is one of the highest planes of intelligence. I really do believe that. Now, I want to talk about why I did change my mind, and also how propaganda, I think, can affect anybody, because I was absolutely astounded looking back how it managed to infiltrate my mind. Anyway, and I've not quite figured out yet why that happened and how I managed to extricate myself from the power of that propaganda. But as time goes on, I'm sure I will. Now, let's go back to February last year, February 2020. My position on the media was one of disdain by then, to be honest. It had gone beyond scepticism and cynicism to disdain for our mainstream media. I've noticed how these apocalyptic visions never came to pass, with Brexit, with Trump, with all the other threats that every 5 minutes, climate change, millennium bug, go on and on and on and on. Never came to pass, always focusing on the worst case scenario, always trying to scare people, and how the mainstream media had also become very ideological, very leftist as well, and it ceased to certainly represent me, and I know millions of other people like me as well. So that was my position on the mainstream media. By then, I'd already rejected the mainstream media, and I was consuming my content via channels such as mine, little independent new media types, and just doing what I do, really, just trying to pay attention to people's behaviour and to society's behaviour and to my own place within that. So that was my position. However, along came the story related to COVID-19 and all of the imagery and the terror related to that. And it really was terror. That was the story. It was one of terror. One of a doomsday scenario was going to come to pass. Here was a virus that was going to kill a lot of people. It was going to kill a lot of people that I knew. It might kill me. So as time went on in those weeks, and the story gained more and more and more traction, and I noticed more and more people around me were starting to display, first of all, concern, then fear, then outright terror. And in the end, so did I. I remember being at work just before the lockdown started and speaking to a respiratory nurse. And I said to her, do you mind me asking, because we were just chatting generally, do you mind me asking, is it as bad as the media are making out? And she says, I'm sorry to tell you, it's worse. Doctors are going to be making heartbreaking decisions about who lives and who dies, and the NHS isn't going to be able to cope. My heart sank, my anxiety went through the roof. And I said to myself, Dave, I can't believe you've misread the situation to such a degree. And from that moment on, for the next few weeks, I was under the spell. And like I say, looking back, I don't quite understand how that happened. But what I do know now is that I really do feel if propaganda can affect me, someone who's so, I really do feel like I'm very, very aware and of any ideology that it tries to be imposed by government, media, any groupthink. Yet it still managed to enslave me in its tentacles for a number of weeks. So, I remember even making admissions, apologies to people I knew, saying, I'm really sorry I didn't take this seriously. I'm sorry I didn't do the social distancing, and I didn't take the rules seriously. And then I did slavishly follow the rules for a number of weeks. I really, really did. I was very obedient, which it just isn't like me at all. I remember I, developed the symptoms of COVID-19. I had a high temperature and a cough, whether it was or not, I don't know. Did the self-isolation thing, rung up work and told them, I wasn't able to come in. And they told me I'd lost my job anyway. There was no need for me anymore, so I lost my job. I thought I had the symptoms of COVID. I thought loads of people were going to die of it. And, just took to drinking, basically. Now, what were the tipping points that led to me being able to take a step back again and change my mind again and go back to my original position, which was correct? Like I say, I think I need to think more deeply about this and try and remember. But there were a couple of things. Obviously, there was part of me that I wasn't 100% enslaved by this brainwashing. I couldn't have been, because I managed to quickly extricate myself from it. I remember hearing this phrase, the new normal, and something clicked in my head. And I remember asking myself, why are they saying that? The new normal, that sounds like a revolution to me. That sounds like the life that we have now, we're never going back to. So I started playing on that a little bit and thinking, and I heard them saying it more and more and more. I then noticed, as I watched these government press conferences, there was never any reassurance whatsoever that this was soon going to come to an end. There was never that reassurance that just give it so much time and definitely everything's going to go back to how it was at this point in time. They never said, and I noticed that nobody else had noticed that. And I started asking questions, and I'd say to other people, why are they not, what's this new normal thing, and why are they not, reassuring us? I didn't understand. Then there was the clapping for the NHS, which I did twice. I'm ashamed to admit. I'll never fully forgive myself for that. And I remember my brother said he was going to stop doing it. He said it just seems too socialist. And again, that was something that clicked. I was like, yeah, this is very socialist. It's like something out of North Korea. What are we doing, clapping like seals just because we're told to for our health service? What's that all about? It's a bit strange. It's a bit dystopian. It's a bit weird. We have to stay in our houses and we're allowed to go out once, and we're expected to go out once to the end of our driveways and clap in unison. That's a bit weird, isn't it? I then noticed when I was in work, because I was working at the time as a delivery driver, and the adverts on the radio. And I thought it was more propaganda. And I thought, this is strange. It's like they're trying too hard. Why is it necessary for this amount of propaganda that's clearly intended to influence behaviour and to coerce people into acting in ways that is not natural for human beings to act? So that got me thinking as well. I then started doing a little bit of digging myself, a little bit of research. I started looking into statistics. I started really paying attention to what they were saying. And then I started paying attention to what others were saying who had a different view from this very, very well-crafted mainstream narrative. And as time went by, as the days and weeks ticked by, I again changed my mind, and I realised that I'd been hoodwinked, that I'd been coerced, that my thoughts, words, actions and behaviours had been manipulated. And I was ashamed of myself. So I managed to quickly, like I say, remove myself from from these tentacles of media brainwashing and indoctrination. And ever since then, I've looked back and it's given me a useful insight into how brainwashing and indoctrination works. how it can leave people helpless, how it can completely remove their ability to think critically, to think independently, to challenge what they're told. Now, I mustn't have been 100% affected by it, otherwise, how did I manage to remove myself so quickly from its grip? But this is something that I feel many people have been on this. I've had a similar experience. They've been skeptical, then they've been completely taken in by it. And now I think millions of people are in the position where they know they were fooled. But there's only some who are willing to admit it. And that's where the emotional intelligence comes in, because you have to be able to admit you got it wrong, that you were fooled, that what we've been asked to do is completely unreasonable, and that what we have been asked to do is unfair, and that the effects that have played out on society have been completely unreasonable, and the measures that have been put in place have been completely disproportionate to the threat which does exist. And I really genuinely, wholeheartedly believe now that anybody who has given themselves permission to take a step back and look at the situation through an objective lens has reached the same conclusion, that none of this is justified. And the key thing now is how many of those people are willing to admit it. That's where we stand now. Many are, but many aren't. I think the number of people who believe that the measures that are still currently in place, the rules that are still currently in place, are justified. I think the percentage of those people is very, very small now. So approximately 1 year on from the point where I very quickly changed my mind again, I just wanted to reflect and try and analyse a little bit why my stance did change, why my interpretation did alter, why my perception did shift. And I think as time goes on from now, that will become clearer, because I'm still trying to work it all through in my head. It's very confusing. I'm very pleased, obviously, that I am no longer acting like a lemming, like a sheep, like a seal, clapping my hands, following the rules religiously, no matter what they are, that I've regained the ability quickly to think for myself. Now, what's your take on this then? How do you see it? Or did you see it for what it was right at the start, as an overreaction? Please do let me know in the comments. I'd be very interested to hear your take. Also, if anyone has any recommendations of anything I can watch or read to do with how psychological manipulation works, how brainwashing works, how indoctrination works, please do let me know. I'd be very, very interested to hear. If you do like my content and you want to hear more from me, please do subscribe to The Imperfect Individual, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.